You're always going to be a Mexican. You'll never be white. You know that, right? You'll never be white, which is what you really want to be.
There you go, dear.
White.
Have a good day.
You want to be white.
It comes from a deputy. It's his own personal body camera. He's been on the force for 14 years and tells me he has his own personal body camera.
All right. Welcome to the Built by Vitality podcast. I am Steve Pinkerton, sitting next to
Philip Lewis.
He's got his vintage I am FitSuccess.tv 2011 shirt.
What's that from?
It's from a company we created back about a decade ago that never got off the ground.
All right. Well, I'm still representing it.
We're still representing it. Cost us about $500 in shirts, and that was about as far as we got. It was like Vitality Media 0.5. Like, we weren't quite to the first iteration of it. We were a little bit ahead of our game. We didn't have Philip there.
Oh, okay.
So we launched Vitality Media without Philip. It failed. It took me a decade to get back on my feet again. We launched it again.
Now we're thriving.
Now look at us.
That's right.
Joe Rogan's calling us, wanting us to be on his show. Okay, today we are going to dive into a topic that I've wanted to talk about for a while. We're going to talk about the police, and we're going to talk about my thoughts on what the media has done to the police and the law enforcement officers. And we're going to peel back that onion. And some people might not like it. I don't know why you wouldn't like it. It's a conversation that needs to be had. Whether you agree with me or not, I really don't care. It's my point of view. And I think we're at a point now where we have to be so careful as business owners when it comes to having an opinion. And it's frustrating. I get it, because you don't want to alienate people. I understand that. But the goal is not to just sit back like Switzerland and not ever have an opinion on things. And I shouldn't have to suppress my opinion. Me, of all people, I got to serve next to a bunch of people in the military that fought for this very right of why America is the greatest country on the planet, because we have the ability to believe what we want to believe, say what we want to say, support what we want to support. And now, here we are under attack, not by, terrorists from the Middle East, but by our own media companies and by our own citizens of this country. We're not allowed to have it. All we see is this cancel culture nonsense where someone makes a statement of what they believe in, and now they're not allowed to say those things because someone else with a louder voice can mute them. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe in that. So you know what? I sat on this for a while because I don't know what I was. I'm not saying I'm afraid to say these things. I just, you get caught up in this. I'm gonna play by the rules. What rules? Who made the rules? The rules aren't sit on your hands and don't make any waves. No, when you see something that's not right, if we don't speak up about it, man, we're on a path to go somewhere we don't want to go.
It's getting to a point, if you support the police or something, you're the problem, or you're bad, or like there's
insert anything to that. I mean, do I? It doesn't matter what political affiliation I have, but now you can't have one or the other. If I support a Democratic view, then I'm alienated by the Republicans. If I support a Republican point of view, then it's, oh my gosh, you're a Trump guy or whatever. It's madness. It's madness. So we're going to dive in a little bit. I'm going to talk about why I think you have to have these respectful conversations. The opinions that I'm going to talk about are going to be based on my experiences. I'm not saying that I have all the answers. I don't have the answers, but I've got some unique experiences that maybe some other people don't. And the more we engage in these conversations, to me, the more we grow, the more we can evolve as a human being. I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to surround myself with people that only believe what I believe because they don't want to correct me. I can promise you that on a daily basis, I get corrected a lot. Okay? People aren't afraid to correct me because if I say something that's not right, someone's going to say something. Hey man, it's actually this. Cool, great. I'll put that in my back pocket and we'll move on. But now everybody gets so butthurt. You can't correct anybody. You can't say anything to anybody, or else it's just this. Oh man, we just can't be friends because we don't believe in the same thing. No, man, that's what you want. You want to be surrounded by those people. So what my point is going to start with is the animosity that's created and fabricated by the media and the government about our law enforcement officers is so unacceptable, but even more dangerous for those law enforcement officers. I'm done with it. I can't stomach to listen to it anymore. And it shouldn't have taken this. And let me just set this straight. I was glad to see Derek Chauvin get convicted. I'm glad. Okay, I don't agree with what happened to the way that he handled that situation with George Floyd. I don't. I think that it was excessive. I think that somebody else should have stepped in and got a hold of that situation, and they didn't. And it ran its course. And so don't take this as I don't think that there are issues that need to be resolved out there. There are, okay? But the way that we're going about doing them is not going to fix it. So I just want people to understand that this is not a one-sided, hey, I agree with everything the law enforcement officers are doing. Look, there are mistakes being made, but the media, the way that they're reporting these is dishonest. It's and just it's uncalled for what they're getting away with. So my background and why I think that I have some unique ability to talk about this is I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps, so I understand that aspect of it. B, I've got two people in my family that are law enforcement officers and have been that for over a decade, and they're in some extremely dangerous areas of the states that they operate in, and I'm also a business owner, so I can see this from so many different angles that I think it qualifies me to at least have this conversation and have some credibility with the thoughts that I have in my brain, and the past. Gosh, maybe a year. I've lost count. But the past year, what the media has done and what they've portrayed our law enforcement officers as it's disgusting. They're making a human highlight reel of the 1% or less of the police interactions that are handled inappropriately or could be construed that way on that 10 to 15 second clip that they manipulate. And what it's done is put on a loop, and it's all that we see. Every single day we see this interaction that went bad, or we see this interaction that they only show us a glimpse of it, not enough to put into context what's actually happening. But yet now I can sit on the couch with zero experience in that situation and then judge Philip, who's spent 15 years of his life as a law enforcement officer, trained to do this, trained to respond in certain ways. And now I'm going to sit here and question Philip because I saw a 15-second clip that was manipulated. I don't get to hear the call that came in before that. I don't get to hear any background that they knew going to the scene that I don't. All I see is what the news shows me.
And the person they're dealing with, they don't know that person's background or what they have done or their history or nothing.
No. And so what we see is that police officers are killing black people, unarmed black people all across the country. That's what's happening. But let's look at the stats. Now, and don't get me wrong. Again, I am not saying that there needs to be some training that needs to take place and needs to be implemented, and maybe some police reform out there. I'm sure that there are some great things that can happen, but they have to be done, and they have to involve people that have actually sat in the seat of that patrol car. It can't be by some 90-year-old congressman sitting in D.C. that has no concept of what these guys go through on a daily basis. Because the reality is, nobody, if you haven't been a police officer, nobody has any idea what it's like to do that. And the fact that we throw shade to these people, these brave law enforcement officers that are the only reason that the majority of these cities are safe on a day-to-day basis, it makes me so sick to my stomach, because I want to put these people that sit behind here. You know who I want to put? I want to put the lady that was pulled over in L.A. County a couple days ago, who it was a Hispanic person that pulled her over. And the things that came out of her mouth,
That's terrible.
the things that she was saying to this police officer were the most disgusting things that I've heard. But you don't see that. No. So here's my question. She was a teacher. Do I think now, because of the way she acted in that instance, that every teacher acts that way? Of course I don't. It is one person.
It's a person problem.
That made a very terrible decision, but I'm not going to assume that every teacher is like that. Now you flip the side over. Well, we see the Derek Chauvin thing. Are there some other cases that we see that have been handled incorrectly? I'm sure there are. But let's look at the stats. Let's look at the numbers. 55 million police interactions happen every year. 55 million.
Yeah.
Okay? 55 million. 1,000 of those result in deaths. 1,000 deaths a year by the police. Okay, the police officers kill 1,000 people. Let's not even talk about separating that into actual criminals that were armed, that were killed, justified kills. Let's just take it as 1,000. That means out of 55 million stops, 1,000 people. Of those 1,000, twice as many white people are killed, white males, than black males. Now, again, I am not saying that there isn't a racism problem, okay? I'm not. But it is not what the media makes it out to be.
Yeah.
It is not. Police officers are not racist. They're not inherently racist, okay? And the reality is, like the numbers show, twice as many males are white that get killed every year. And this is from 2017 on. Now, in a country of 350 million people, there were 12 unarmed black males killed by the police in 2019. 12 unarmed. That means those 55 million interactions, there were 12 instances. But what do we see on the news? We're looking at every single one of those. What aren't we looking at? What aren't we looking at are these brave men and women that are going into these neighborhoods and they don't care whether it's white, black, brown. They're keeping these neighborhoods safe. They're getting drug dealers off the streets. They're getting rapists off the streets. They're keeping their kids safe. They're keeping our communities safe. Every single day they risk their lives to do this. And our response to them is, oh, well, because Derek Chauvin made this mistake, we are now going to throw eggs at police officers. We're now going to berate them. We're now going to be belligerent and take videos of them. And it's just, it cannot go on this way. It can't. We have to be better at separating the truth and what the media wants us to believe. They want this narrative because they want to divide us. And to an extent, it's working. You look around in some of these cities, and you're seeing this animosity get worse and worse and worse. And I don't know why. I'm not a smart enough guy to tell you why the government wants to do this. Why the media, other than the media knows that this is what's the clickbait is the best.
Yeah,
that's what's going to get people to click on the story.
If there was a video of an officer pulling somebody over and it went smooth and nice, good day, sir, ma'am, there's a great interaction, they signed their ticket, whatever, on the way, no issues, Nobody's going to watch that. Like, we might watch it once in a while, but that's what sells, like the bad stuff.
And let me tell you, that female officer, she was like a 20-year vet who pulled the gun instead of the taser.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, is a perfect example of why this argument of defunding the police cannot happen. And now I know what you're going to say. Those listeners are saying, "Oh, well, we don't mean defund the police. We mean redirect funds." Okay. Yeah. Bottom line is, that's nice semantics, equally insane.
Yeah.
You're taking funds away from these police departments and directing them somewhere else. Yeah. I don't care what you're defunding. You're taking money away from the police. And for people that don't think this is happening, people are like, "Oh, well, that's actually not happening." Open your eyes. Mm-hmm. Just do the Google search. Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Washington, California, New York. These places have already cut their budget. They've already cut it. They're already seeing money being taken away. And why, if you go back to that case I just talked about with the female who drew the gun instead of the taser, that is a training problem. Mm-hmm. It is because there's not enough training, whether it's funding or time or prioritization, whatever it is, there's not enough training for these officers so that they can recreate these scenarios.
Me personally, when I heard about that is a terrible thing. That's awful that it happened. I wish it wouldn't have happened. But you said she was, 20 years plus or something, mom, kids, probably never had an issue in 20-something years.
Yep.
When that first happened, obviously people were upset. That's a really bad thing. But it's almost like people were expecting, or they want to require police officers, whether it's police officers, paramedics, doctors, all these people, that if they mess up, it could cause death. If me and you mess up writing something up in Watify, they just breathed a little harder, the time was off, we could maybe not kill nobody. You're asking a human to be perfect and never have a mistake.
I love that you
can do more training, it might slow a little bit of that, but you'll never ever, no matter what anybody says, in my opinion, remove human error.
I love that you just talked about that. We're going to jump ahead because my man Philip, this was not planned. This is just he being my wingman. I completely agree, and I did some research on human error, and to expect police officers to be perfect, we can. Our goal can be perfection, but that can't be the expectation. Cannot be.
It won't happen. How many times you mess up in the Marine Corps when you was in there in 8 years?
My goodness gracious.
You were never perfect in there, right?
I can't even tell you. So, again, we go back to this, the statistics of this. How much more perfect do we have to be if we have 55 million police encounters? On average, 1,000 people are killed by the police each year. That means every police encounter, you take 1%, divide it by 100. That's how many times that's going to result in a death. Okay, that's less than a plane crash. It's crazy. We're taking the 1,000 people and assuming that all of those 1,000 people could be different, be a different outcome. Yeah. I would venture a safe guess, a conservative guess, that we'll just say half of those are fully justified situations. So it's even less than that. But people think we should be better, right? Our law enforcement should be better. Okay. According to Johns Hopkins, 300,000 people die every year due to errors made by medical personnel. And I said that right. I looked at that 2 different places. That's 300,000 people die by human error every year. That's the 3rd leading cause of death behind heart disease and cancer. That right there. Yep. But are we treating our doctors the way we treat our police?
No.
If a doctor makes a bad decision and kills somebody, do they die?
There's not. Yeah.
If you are a split second too slow, and here's a perfect example. We'll talk about this. The tragedy in, I believe it was Chicago, where it was a 13-year-old male that had the weapon, had the gun, and that was shot. And it was a national story, and people were just, and I talked to my brothers about that. And it's pitch black. Mm-hmm. They're chasing after somebody with a weapon. Now, here's the thing. I was one of them was saying that the first thing that'll happen when they get in a chase is whoever they're chasing throws the gun, because then they don't have a weapon, right? If they keep the gun, there's a reason they're going to keep that weapon.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
There's a reason. They stop, the guy swings around, and he's got a gun. What do we want our law enforcement to do?
I heard somebody the other day say, "Why do police carry tasers if they're not going to use it?" I said, if you have a gun and bullets will come at me, I'm not shooting something that's going to shock you really quick.
That's just
it doesn't work that way.
I'll tell you one of the scariest things.
Could you imagine a war that way? You have a group, like a civil war or some kind. You have a group that has nothing but tasers.
Yeah.
You got another group, they got nothing but guns.
Yeah.
Who do you think's going to win?
Yeah. I'll tell you that one of the scariest things that I can remember, and you just get used to it the more you do it, but it was entering a house. We were overseas. It was entering a house, and we'd rotate who would go first and who would enter first. Because if you're first, you have zero chance.
I'd be first, you'd be behind me, right?
I'd definitely put you first.
All right.
You kick that door in, and you're in. And you funnel into that room, you could put doesn't matter, the most untrained individual with a shotgun or an AK through that door, and all you're going to tell them is, hey, when that door opens, you start firing, and there's nothing, you can't react that quick. Okay. So now, and I've always said, police officers have it it was way harder to be a police officer than it was to be, in my opinion, a Marine. Because I knew when we were in Iraq, we knew who was bad for the most part, and who was trying to kill us. Here, you have no idea. Yeah. You roll up on a car. I want to take this lady in L.A. County, the one that got mouthy. I want to make her get out of her car and walk up to a vehicle at 2 o'clock in the morning. They can't have their weapon drawn. The police aren't coming up ready to go.
Yeah.
When we entered a house,
you're ready.
We were ready.
Yeah.
As soon as we saw something, we were gonna fire.
Yeah.
We were shooting. They can't do that.
No.
So you already are at such a disadvantage.
Yeah.
And that's what we are underestimating. And yes, mistakes are made, but I keep coming back to this. It is a training problem. And what we're doing by putting the pressure that we are on these law enforcement officers, we're making it even more difficult. So I just wanted to talk about that human error piece, because that is such a common sense approach to this that we need to understand. Yes, our goal can be perfection, but we cannot expect it. There is human error. Mistakes are made. That's the way it goes. But these mistakes are not made at a rate that what the media is portraying it to be. It is not. It is 99.9% of the time that law enforcement officer is doing exactly what he should be doing, handling exactly the right way. He's not racist, but there are bad eggs in every profession.
That comes, like we said, like with human error. That's just it's a human problem. It's
how many times you picked up the phone and called a company and you got someone that was a real a-hole?
Yeah.
We all happen.
Yeah.
It all happened to us. But that's just
everybody at the company ain't like that.
It's just a chance that you're going to run into the wrong person. But training can fix that. You can identify these things. If you have a better training program, then you might be able to identify some of these shortcomings. But the opposite, the inverse, is going to happen when you take the money away from this and you alienate those potential law enforcement officers. Because now Philip Lewis, graduates high school, goes to college, decides, man, you know what? I want to be a cop. Nobody's saying that now.
No.
Nobody.
No.
So now you're getting.
I've always wanted to be one. Like, I graduated from the academy, and I was like, man, that'd be a cool thing. I just never did it.
Yep.
And I've thought I would still have a feeling in me that I always want to do it. For some reason, it's never went away until like the past 2 years.
Yeah.
It started to go away. Now, if Charlotte Police Department said, hey, Philip, man, you leave Vitality, man, we'll pay you $100,000 a year. Come work for us. I'd turn it. I wouldn't.
And I talk to my brothers a lot about that. I say, man, listen, maybe it's time for you guys to move on, because I'm concerned. I'm worried that I think they're great at what they do. I think they're built for this, but I don't think it's fair to them. Mm-hmm. A part of me wants them to walk away, because the way that they're treated is not acceptable.
No.
And a part of me wants, let's just shut the whole thing down.
Yeah.
You take these cops away, and you watch people, see what happens. Mm-hmm. You see what happens. You see who comes begging back for these police officers to keep them safe.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You know how long people would last without the police?
Oh, it'd be terrible.
Oh my goodness! Everybody's quick to judge until they're not there around.
Yeah.
And guess who they're calling? Oh, come help me! Man,
Yeah.
get out of here.
When you get in a wreck, who shows up?
Yeah.
When somebody breaks in your house, who shows up? When suspicious activity is going on, who shows up?
When someone assaults your daughter, who's coming to look into it?
That's what they do. Like, they're not all bad. It's like you said, 55 million interactions, and there's not that many.
But now what we're doing, we are setting this up, and we're saying it's going to be like a hand grenade that goes off, man, because now everyone is on edge, and everything that you do, you're just waiting for something bad. You're expecting something bad to happen. And when you start expecting bad things to happen, they're going to happen.
Yeah.
When you start, it's just, you can't have that mindset to where you think that everybody is bad, and that's what we are convinced of. And the riots that are going on, the looting that's going on, these businesses that are getting burned to the ground, that can't happen. And people need to speak up and say, this is unacceptable. This is not the way, this is not reality. But you know what? Maybe people don't know cops like I know cops. You know, I've met so many police officers back in Michigan from where I'm from. And I'm not just saying this. Every single one of them I look at and I meet, and I'm like, man, what an awesome guy. Like, what an awesome police officer. They're lucky to have that guy in the department.
I've hung out with a lot of them. I did a ride along with one time. I won't say his name or department. I was riding with him, and I noticed something. I said, hey, man, you going to pull them over? He said, nah, man. He said, tell you the truth, man, I do that all the time. I'm not going to do that to somebody when I know I do it all the time. That's not the right thing to do. I'm not going to do that. It's not that big of a thing. It wasn't nothing crazy. It wasn't like a shooting or something, but he was like, I'm not going to do that, man. That makes me that's a bad thing. They're really nice.
And here's the other thing. You know, you're taking these police officers are already sacrificing so much, more than 99% of the people in this country will ever understand. They're sacrificing so much. They're already under so much pressure. And I think one thing that we overlook is the stress that these guys and girls are under on a daily basis is massive. And I'll give you a statistic to back this up. In 2019, there were 228 police suicides. I mean, that is a massive number. That was 2019. Imagine what that number is going to be when they come out in 2021 with the updated statistics. If you think for a second that the media hasn't put this just uncarryable weight on the law enforcement shoulders, you're so naive and ignorant, it's frustrating me even more. What we've done as a society to our law enforcement officers and the stress that we now put them under, and when do we make mistakes?
All the time.
When are we more prone to make mistakes?
When you're under pressure.
It's easy to be perfect when you're not in a stressful situation.
When nothing's happening.
But when you increase your stress level, mistakes multiply.
Yeah.
And now we're doing that before we even get to the situation, to the scenario.
Just think, before all this, you pull somebody over, say you're a veteran, you've been doing it a while. You're chill.
Yep.
It's like you're still
Another
a little
day.
bit of something.
Yep.
There always will be. But now, before you even turn your lights on or attempt to stop them, you're probably ramped up.
Yep. I don't care who you are. I don't care how many years you've been doing this. You're
walking on eggshells all the time.
Yep. And so, I think a lot of what we talked about today is just, I just want people to understand this from the point of view of, and here's, I'll close it with this. These police officers have families, just like we do. They got husbands and wives, they got kids. And what the media is asking them to do is put those loved ones in danger by slowing down our decision-making skills as law enforcement officers so that we can be perfect. So we can wait till we have 100% of the solution. Well, it doesn't work like that. And now
if I waited till I was 100% sure you was going to shoot me or not, then
too late.
I would know 100% because I'd be shot.
So here's a scenario. Here's how I see this playing out. We saw it with our own eyes. Guy comes up to a domestic disturbance. There is a fight between, I believe, two females. One has a knife.
Oh, yeah.
And she's taking the knife. She's stabbed the other girl.
She had that girl up against the car and
Yep,
was going to
gonna
stab her or was stabbing her or whatever. Yeah.
And he shot her. And the media
Freaked out
and said, oh, why did we use deadly force? What would you like me to do?
There's a lot of people saying, like I told you, the taser thing, and it specifically says if there's an imminent threat of death, that girl that was going to stab the other one could have stabbed her one time in a certain area, multiple areas, but just hit one spot, and she would die.
Absolutely.
So he was protecting the girl that was going to be stabbed, but they were mad at the guy for shooting the girl.
And what we're asking these police officers to do is, now the hesitation factor comes in. Now you're waiting to do something because you're afraid that you're going to get hung out to dry, because your department probably can't protect you anymore because that public opinion is so loud, that voice is so loud that now, here's the thing. When you get pulled over and you're told to do something, we need to do it.
Yeah.
If you're told to stop and put your hands up, you need to do it. And the reality is, people don't want to hear this from me, and this will be the part that'll be controversial, I'm sure. And that's fine. We can have this debate. But I do not expect a law enforcement officer to put his life in even more danger to wait if someone is not responding to what he's telling them to do, and he's reaching in his pocket to get something instead of put his hands over his head. I'm thinking, as a police officer, there is nothing he's getting that's going to help the situation out of his pocket.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah. There's no scenario that plays out that makes this right. So, of course, do I think that it's justified for him to shoot right then? I absolutely do. Yeah. And if people don't want to get shot, then we've got to start paying attention and listening to what these police officers are saying. And like I said, are there instances where police officers make mistakes? Yes. Do they need to get fixed? Yes. Do they need more training? Yes. Should they be punished for those mistakes? Absolutely. They do. I agree with all of that. But it's time, as a country, we stop demonizing our law enforcement and embracing the challenges that they face on a daily basis to protect us. They are there not because of the money they're getting paid, not because of the fame that they're getting. They're getting dumped on every day for no pay, for nothing.
Yep.
just to keep us safe.
Yep.
So I think it's time that we start to grow up a little bit and understand that our silence has consequences too.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe I'm too connected to it. Maybe I'm too close to it. I don't know. But I think it would help if everybody could put themselves in the shoes of the people at home. Can you imagine being the wife or husband of the police officer that goes out on duty every night now?
Yeah.
You kidding me?
You're like, man, this might be the last time I see them.
Can you imagine the kids?
Yeah.
What are the kids? What these poor kids must think?
Oh gosh.
You know?
Yeah. Especially when they get a little older and they realize what's going on, what's this, what's that. Yeah.
Philip gave me this this quote by Sheriff David Clarke, and I'll read this. We'll close out with this.
This was from, when did I say that?
This was August 29th, 2020. So this is right in the heart of the pandemic, and this is when a lot of the animosity was in full swing. But this is what he said. It's not the police who need to be retrained, it's the public. We have grown into a mouthy, mobile phone wielding, vulgar, uncivil society with no personal responsibility and the attitude of, it's the other person's fault, you owe me. A society where children grow up with no boundaries or knowledge or concern for civil society and personal responsibility. When an officer says, put your hands up, then put your hands up. Don't reach for something in your pocket, your lap, your seat. There's plenty of reasons for a police officer to feel threatened. There have been multiple assaults and ambushes on police officers lately. Comply with requests from the officer. Have your day in court. Don't mouth off or fight or refuse to comply. That escalates the situation. Police officers are our sons and daughters, fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters. They're black, white, brown, all colors, all ethnicities, all faiths, male and female. They are us. They see the worst side of humanity. The raped children, the bloody, mangled bodies of traffic victims, the bruised and battered victims of domestic violence, homicide victims, body parts day after day. They work holidays while we have festive meals with our families. They miss school events with their kids, birthdays, anniversaries, all those special occasions that we take for granted. They work in all types of weather under dangerous conditions for relatively low pay. They have extensive training, but they are human. When there are numerous attacks on them, they become hyper-vigilant for a reason. They have become targets. When a police officer encounters any person, whether at a traffic stop, a street confrontation, an arrest, whatever, that situation has the potential to become life-threatening. You, Mr. and Mrs. Miss Civilian, also have the responsibility of keeping the situation from getting out of control. Many law enforcement officers are veterans. They've been in service to this nation most of their lives. Whether on the battlefield or protecting us here at home, they're the only thing that stands between us and anarchy in the streets. If you want to protect your child, teach them respect. I don't know how else you can say that in a way that you hope that it hits home. And
Yeah.
and I just wish that this narrative, that these irresponsible media outlets continue to try and hammer to divide us even more. Do I think racism exists? I do. But if we think for 1 second that the media isn't widening the gap versus trying to close the gap, we're sorely mistaken. Only we can close the gap as citizens. Only we can teach our kids to understand all lives, everybody, to be a good human, to show everybody respect, to love everybody. That's up to us as parents. If we expect the media and the government to do that, we're in for a rude awakening. And I think it's time that some of us wake up and understand that they're part of the problem and not part of the solution. So, this is one of those things where, I don't know, I as I sit here and reflect back on the previous 40 minutes, I don't know that this is a super controversial topic or discussion that we had. I think it's just a discussion of what I believe is happening. It's my point of view. If you feel really strongly the opposite way and you think that some of the things I'm saying are I guess, incorrect, or you want to talk about it, I'd love to. Me and Philip will get you on the show and we'll talk through it. Maybe you have a better perspective than I do. Maybe you've got family that have, in the law enforcement, you've seen a completely different view. I don't know, but I'm just telling you from my experience and from what I deal with on a daily basis. I think I have a close interaction with law enforcement and my background, and I hope that it opens some people's eyes up. I hope that we do our own research. We look into these things, look in the numbers yourself. Make sure that the narrative you're being fed actually makes sense, actually is correct. And you can do our own research. We have the world's at our fingertips with these stupid things. At least use it for something beneficial, like doing some research. So I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know. We'll see what kind of response we get. But this certainly isn't clickbait. This is something I woke up for, and I've been hot about for a minute. And I don't know why it took me this long to speak up about it. I'm partly embarrassed for that. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Yep.
Philip and I are about to go get jacked.
Are we? Nice.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
All right, guys. This is a Built by Vitality podcast. We'll catch you in the next one.